She says she values honesty. Then, the moment you're honest, she punishes you for it. Most men see this as a contradiction, a flaw in her character, or a reason to get angry. But they're looking at the surface of a deep, dark ocean. If you're listening to this, you're tired of the surface. You're tired of the confusion, the pulling away, and the games that seem to have no rules. The truth is there are rules. They just aren't the ones you were taught. You were taught that being good leads to being chosen. You were taught that communication is the bridge to attraction. But tonight, we're going to dismantle that lie. Because once a man understands the structural reality of how a woman's desire actually functions, not what she says she wants, but what her nervous system responds to, dating doesn't just get easier. It changes forever. Welcome to the realization. Think about the last time a woman went cold on you. Maybe you were texting every day, things were perfect, and then silence. Or perhaps a shorter response. A vibe shift, what did you do? You likely did what 99% of men do. You leaned in. You asked if she was okay. You tried to fix the energy, and in that one moment, you lost. Not because you were unkind, but because you revealed your scarcity. Women are the ultimate readers of data. They don't listen to your words, they read your presence. When you lean in to fix a vibe, you aren't showing love. You're showing that your internal peace is dependent on her approval. And there is nothing less sexy than a man who can be moved by a woman's mood. Dating changes forever the moment you stop treating her behavior as a personal attack and start treating it as feedback. Every pull back, every test, every "I'm confused" is a question. She isn't asking if you like her. She's asking, is your world stronger than mine? Most men fail that question. They enter her frame. They try to navigate her chaos. But a high-value man, a man who understands the shadow, knows that the only way to win the game is to be the one who defines it. You don't react, you observe. You don't explain, you act. Imagine a man who doesn't need to be chosen because he is too busy choosing. He doesn't chase clarity, he provides it through his boundaries. If she's inconsistent, he isn't angry, he's simply gone. He doesn't lecture her on how to treat him, he shows her by removing his presence. This is the law of scarcity. Scarcity creates value. Your availability is your biggest enemy. If you are always there, always understanding, always waiting, you are replaceable. Let's talk about the test. You felt it. That moment where she pushes a boundary just to see if it holds. Maybe she's late, maybe she mentions another man, maybe she questions your decisions. Most men bend, they want to keep the peace. But peace is the death of passion. Passion requires tension, and tension requires a man with a spine made of cold, hard steel. When she tests you, she is desperately hoping you pass. She is looking for a limit, because a man without limits is a man she cannot trust to lead her. If she can move you, she can't feel safe with you. The moment you hold your frame calmly, without a raised voice, without an ounce of drama, the dynamic shifts. She stops testing and starts trusting, not because you're a jerk, but because you're a rock. And in a world of shifting sand, a rock is the most intoxicating thing a woman can find. You've been told to be vulnerable, to share everything, to be her best friend. But attraction isn't built in the light of understanding. It's built in the shadows of the unknown. Robert Greene, Machiavelli, Nietzsche, they all understood that power and desire are cousins. If she knows everything about you, if your schedule is an open book, if your feelings are always on your sleeve, where is the mystery? Where is the reason for her to wonder about you when you're not there? Obsession is born in the space between your interactions. It's born when she's lying in bed wondering why you didn't text back immediately. It's born when she realizes that you have a life, a mission, and a purpose that exists entirely without her. This isn't about being toxic, it's about being honest with the biology of attraction. You want a woman who is obsessed with you. Stop making her the center of your universe. A man whose life orbits a woman is a man who has no gravity of his own. Build your own sun. Let her feel the warmth of your success, your discipline, and your boundaries, but never let her think she owns the source. Once you understand this, the fear of losing her vanishes. And ironically, the moment you are truly willing to walk away is the moment she will never want to leave, because you've signaled the highest form of value, outcome, independence. You are okay with or without her. That is the ultimate sexy. That is the ultimate power. So from this moment on, stop performing. Stop trying to win her over. The world is full of men who perform. Be the man who exists. Be the man who has requirements. When you stop feeding the game with your anxiety, the game stops playing you. You'll notice it within weeks. The quality of the women will change. The way they look at you will change. They'll stop giving you excuses and start giving you effort, because they've finally met a man who understands the silence, a man who isn't afraid of the dark. If you're ready to stop being the one who chases and start being the one who selects, then you're in the right place. This journey into the female psyche and your own shadow is only beginning. If this resonated with the parts of you that you've been told to keep quiet, then subscribe. Join us in the shadows where the truth lives. Share this with one man who is currently lost in the friend zone or the confusion zone. He needs to hear this. And remember, the game doesn't change when you understand it, you change. And that, my friend, changes everything. The shift happens the moment you realize that most of what you call love is actually just a negotiation for safety. But you don't want a business partner. You want a fire, and fire doesn't grow in a vacuum of niceness. It grows where there is oxygen, and in the world of attraction, oxygen is distance. Most men are terrified of distance. They think if they aren't constantly pouring attention into the relationship, the flame will go out, so they suffocate it. They text, "Good morning," every day without fail. They ask, "How was your day?" like a repetitive script. They become a predictable utility. And you have to understand, humans don't desire utilities. We use them, we rely on them. But we don't crave them. We crave the thing that might not be there tomorrow. Think about the psychological concept of the void. When you pull back, you create a void in her life. Most men are so insecure that they try to fill that void before she even feels it, that they provide the answer before she's even asked the question. But the man who understands the shadow knows that the void is your greatest ally. When you stop providing constant validation, her mind begins to work. She starts to wonder, is he busy? Is he with someone else? Did I say something wrong? This isn't about being cruel. It's about allowing her the gift of missing you. In that silence, she creates a version of you in her head that is far more powerful than any version you could present through a text message. You are literally allowing her imagination to do the work for you. I've seen men who are objectively perfect, on paper, rich, fit, kind, get dumped for a man who has half their assets but twice their frame. Why? Because the perfect man was a servant to her emotions. If she was sad, he became a clown to make her laugh. If she was angry, he became a lawyer to argue his innocence. He was always reacting. The man with frame, he is the weather. He isn't reacting to the rain, he is the climate. If she brings drama, he doesn't engage. He doesn't get loud, he simply becomes unavailable. He treats her bad behavior not with a lecture, but with a withdrawal of his most precious resource, his presence. This is the part they never tell you in the movies. Women are biologically wired to seek a container. They are the ocean, vast, emotional, changing and powerful. But the ocean without a shore is just chaos. You are the shore. You are the boundary. If the shore moves every time the tide comes in, the ocean loses respect for it. It just washes over it. Dating changes forever when you stop trying to be the water and start being the rock. You must have things in your life that are more important than her. Your mission, your brothers, your physical discipline, your quiet time. If she feels she can interrupt any of those things at any time, she knows she is the center of your world. And once she knows she is the center, the challenge is over, the hunt is finished. And for the feminine psyche, once the hunt is over, the boredom begins. Let's talk about the currency of respect. You cannot love someone you do not respect. And you cannot respect someone you can control. Every time you apologize for something you didn't do wrong, you lose a piece of her respect. Every time you change your plans because she might be free, you lose a piece of her respect. Every time you let a disrespectful comment slide because you don't want to or ruin the night, you are training her to lose attraction to you. The sexy man is the one who is willing to ruin the night to save his dignity. He would rather go home alone and sleep in a cold bed than sit across from a woman who isn't treating him with the high regard he demands of himself. This willingness to lose her is the exact thing that makes her want to keep you. It is a paradox of the highest order. Imagine the power of a man who can look a beautiful woman in the eye, a woman he deeply desires, and say, "I like you, but I don't like this behavior. Let me know when you're back to yourself." And then he actually leaves. He doesn't check his phone. He doesn't soft block her. He goes and does something productive. In that moment, he has separated himself from 99.9% of the male population. He has shown he has an internal compass that doesn't point toward her. It points toward his own standards. That man doesn't have to worry about dating. Women will fight to be in his world because his world has gravity. As you move forward, you must stop asking, "How do I get her?" and start asking, "Is she qualified to be in my space?" This shift in perspective is the ultimate red pill of the heart. It's not about hating women. It's about loving yourself enough to be a gatekeeper. Your attention is a reward. Your presence is a privilege. Your commitment is a prize. If you give these things away for free, they have no value. If you make her earn them through consistency, loyalty, and respect, she will cherish them. The world will try to shame you for this. They will call you unavailable or emotionally detached. Let them. The men who are available are the ones complaining about the friend zone. The men who are attached are the ones being led by the nose through a life of quiet desperation. You are choosing a different path, a path of mastery, a path where you understand the shadow and use it to build a light that actually lasts. Don't just listen to this and go back to your old habits. The next time you feel the urge to chase, to explain, or to bend, stop, breathe. Remember that you are the shore. Let the tide do what it will, and never forget, the moment you are truly ready to lose it all is the moment you finally have the power to keep what matters. Now, let's peel back the skin on something most men are too afraid to admit exists. The psychology of the test. You see, most men think a test is a hurdle they need to jump over once so they can finally settle into comfort. They think, if I can just prove I'm strong enough, she'll stop. But you have to understand that testing is not a bug in the female operating system. It's the primary feature. It is a biological necessity. Because a woman's greatest risk is a man who is a paper tiger, a man who looks strong when the sun is shining but collapses the moment the wind blows. She isn't trying to break you. She is checking to see if you are breakable. There is a massive difference. If you understand this, you stop getting annoyed by her moods. You stop getting frustrated when she becomes difficult. Instead, you look at her with a smirk, a silent knowing. You realize that in her difficulty, she is actually handing you the keys to her desire. She is saying, please show me that you are bigger than my chaos. Most men react to a test with logic. She says, I don't think we're a good match. And the man starts listing all the reasons why they are a good match. He cites evidence. He argues his case like a desperate salesman. He has already lost. The moment you try to convince a woman she should want you, you have confirmed her suspicion that you aren't worth wanting. The master of the shadow doesn't use logic, he uses presence. When she says, I don't think this is working, he doesn't flinch. He might just look at her, lean back and say, I respect that. I only want people in my life who want to be here. And then this is the crucial part. He stops talking, he allows the silence to do the heavy lifting. He doesn't try to fill the gap with, but what about the date last week? Or, I thought we had a connection. He lets the silence hang there like a mirror. In that mirror, she sees her own uncertainty. And she sees his absolute, unshakable certainty. She sees a man who is so high value that he would rather lose her than lose his self-respect. In that one moment, attraction doesn't just return. It doubles, but what happens when you're past the initial chase? This is where 90% of alpha, of advice fails. Men think they can just be a rock and that's it. But a rock is boring after a while. This is where the maintenance phase begins. This is where you master the art of intermittent presence. Intermittent reinforcement is the most powerful psychological hook in the known world. It's why people sit at slot machines for 18 hours straight. It's not because they always win. It's because they might win. In a relationship, if you are a constant 24/7 source of validation, you become the jackpot that already paid out. There's no reason to keep playing. Maintenance is about being selectively available. It's about being the most loving, dominant, present man in the world when she is meeting your standards and being a ghost when she isn't. Not a mean ghost, not a vengeful ghost, just busy, occupied, elsewhere. Think about the distance desire loop. Desire requires a bridge to cross. If there is no gap, there is no bridge. If you are always in her pocket via text, always on her couch, always in her ear, there is no gap. You have erased the distance, and in doing so, you have erased the desire. I've coached men who were terrified that if they didn't text for a day, she'd find someone else. I tell them, if interest is so fragile that 24 hours of silence destroys it, you didn't have her in the first place. You were just a placeholder. A woman who truly respects your frame will find your silence intoxicating. She will fill that silence with thoughts of you. She will wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and why she hasn't heard from you. And when you finally do reach out, or when you finally see her, that meeting is 1,000 times more intense because it was born out of a vacuum. Let's talk about the physical manifestation of this. Frame isn't just how you talk, it's how you move. It's the way you take up space in a room. It's the way you don't look around for approval when you speak. When you are with a woman, your touch should be a reflection of your boundaries. It should be firm, intentional, and most importantly, it should be something she has to earn. Most men use physical affection as a way to bribe a woman into liking them. They cuddle to get points. They give messages to get credit. This is a transactional mindset, and it's a death sentence for passion. The man who understands the shadow gives affection because he wants to, but he also knows how to withdraw it the moment the energy shifts. If she becomes disrespectful or cold, the touch stops immediately. No explanation needed. You don't tell her, I'm not touching you because you were mean. You just move away. You reclaim your energy, you become a closed circuit. She will feel the sudden drop in temperature. She will feel the off switch. And because she craves the on switch, because your touch is high value, she will naturally begin to calibrate her behavior to get back into your good graces. You aren't training her like an animal, you are teaching her the price of your intimacy. This is how you build a long-term empire of desire. You never let the hunt truly end. You keep your fox nature alive, you stay unpredictable, you go on that solo trip, you start that new business that takes up your Tuesday nights. You keep your secrets. A man with no secrets is a man with no power, not because he's lying, but because he's private. There should always be a part of you that she doesn't fully understand. A room in your mind that she doesn't have the key to. This is the edge. This is what keeps her looking at you 5 years later with the same pupils, dilated intensity she had on the first date. You see, once a man understands this, he realizes that he is not at the mercy of luck or dating apps or the modern world. He realizes that he is an architect. He is designing an environment. And in this environment, he is the sun, the woman is the earth. She orbits him because his gravity is too strong to resist. She finds her life, her joy, and her growth in his warmth. But she never forgets that the sun is a massive, powerful, and potentially dangerous force. That is the sexy that never fades. That is the bold that never stales. It is the realization that your masculinity is not a performance for her. It is a gift that you choose to share with her, provided she respects the terms. Now, let's integrate this into the final reality. The world will tell you that this is manipulation. But let me ask you, is it manipulation for a diamond to be hard? Is it manipulation for the ocean to have tides? No. It is their nature. It is your nature to be a leader. It is your nature to have standards. It is your nature to be the prize. When you act in accordance with your nature, you aren't playing a game. You are finally playing the role you were born to play. The men who understand this don't just do better in dating. They become the men that other men study and women dream about. They become the one because they are the only ones who refuse to compromise their soul for a moment of comfort. You now have the full map, from the first pull back to the long-term maintenance. You know that her tests are a gift. You know that your silence is a weapon. You know that your frame is your fortress. This is the end of the lesson, but it is the beginning of your new life. If you have listened to this far, you are no longer the man you were 30 minutes ago. You have seen behind the curtain. You cannot unsee the patterns. Go out and test this, not with anger, but with the quiet of confidence of a man who already knows the outcome. Watch how the world bends to a man who refuses to bend for it. If you are ready to embody the shadow and lead with the light, then hit that subscribe button. This is where we break the chains. Share this video with a brother who is drowning in niceness and needs a lifeline of truth. The game hasn't changed, but you have. And because you have changed, the world has no choice but to follow. Stay unmoved, stay bold.